All right. What's up, everybody? Here we go. We're doing another episode, and this month we're talking about lines of credit and the liquidity engine that we've been using for the last 10 years. And every time I speak about this, it just goes crazy, and it works so well. Welcome to the Pat Grace Real Estate Show. Kiss my assets. This is where we kind of open up our 25-year network of Kansas City real estate investing and how we've built $200,000 a month of passive income, and our $60 million portfolio that we have right here in Kansas City. And we're bringing in the real operators, the real systems, and the people that actually make the real estate work while everyone else is still watching YouTube and trying to figure things out. And so I got my wife Marta with me tonight. We're going to talk about a strategy here that we've been doing for a long time. Today's episode is about lines of credit, and this is the oxygen for our real estate. This is the part that nobody teaches, that everybody screws up, and most investors don't even know or don't even understand until they're out of cash and they're out of options. And here's the truth: you never really run out of deals. You just run out of liquidity. And so for 15 years now, Marta and I have been living by this specific rule that every asset that we own has a line of credit against it. And right now that gives us access to almost 40 million bucks of lines that we have access to. So we're never short on cash, and we have access to capital at a moment's notice. But here's the
I think
sauce.
that's the key part there, Pat, is that the moment's notice. I want to make sure that doesn't get missed, because when you are writing those offers, you are writing it as a cash offer. You can close in 3 days, and that is what allows you to beat out a lot of other offers when somebody's looking at your offer. So definitely don't miss that for the viewers. When you're using a line of credit to purchase the property, you are writing a cash offer so you can close so much quicker. So yeah, that liquidity is everything. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And here's here's the sauce, that you only pay on what you draw. So you have access to all of this capital, but you're not paying. When you cash out refinance day one, you get all the money, you're making payments. When you do lines, you're not making payments. And so this is something that we use daily, and we crush our debt daily because we can sweep all our money into these vehicles. And so we're going to be going deep and doing a deep dive on this, and talking about it. We use this strategy daily. It's the only way that we finance. We have no compound amortized 30-year loan, not one in our entire portfolio. So this is the only way we finance, and we're going to break down, and this is where the real investors separate themselves from the weekend type landlord. If you get this wrong, your growth stops. If you get this right, you can scale through any market, and even the soft ones, even the ones that we're seeing right now, and it makes me feel really good when I know I have access to 40 million bucks. I can sleep well at night. And so load up the comments, ask your questions, stay interactive. We're breaking down real numbers, real banks, real conversations, the exact credit structures that we use to fund hundreds of properties across Kansas City, how I finance some of my investors, how I finance some of my real estate agents, how I can get into all kinds of different businesses and different investments really quick. And so we have a guest today. We don't have any guests today. The guest today is going to be ourselves, because we couldn't find anyone that does this like we do. And so this is
So
no
your favorite guest.
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to be the guest today. We're going to talk about what we've done, how we've done it, and by the end of this hour, you're going to have a playbook that you can apply immediately, whether you're buying your first rental or you've got a package of properties. But first, let's kind of look at what's actually happening on the ground. So let's talk about the KC sale market. I don't know, Marta, if you want to look at that and kind of take a look at that and go through it. If not, I can do it. But
No, go ahead.
December of 24, There was 2,800 homes closed in December of 25. There was 2,984. So the market was up 3.2% in the terms of closed sales. The market was up 2.2% in terms of the average sale price, and the market was up 1.5% on median sale price. And so here's something that I could really feel is the days on market is up almost 7%. And so that's something that, you know, the homes are sitting there a lot longer. So if you're watching this video and your home ain't selling and you got stuff on the market, that's normal right now. You know, them days are kind of over for now. I think they'll come back this year, but I think for now, homes sitting on the market for 30, 60 days is going to be pretty normal right now. And inventory is also up. So there's more homes on the market, almost 3% more homes on the market. So that's kind of where we're at right now in terms of real estate sales. But let's look at the rental market as well. And so I pulled some stats in Clay County and Jackson County. So the median rent for 3-bedroom in Clay County is about $1,950 to $2,100. That's came down a little bit. Rents were a little bit higher. And so I can see a depression in rents a little. Rents got really high there for a minute, and they're actually coming down, making it a little more affordable for renters. In Jackson County, on the 3-bedroom, you're at $1,750 to $1,950. On the 4-bedroom, you're at about $2,350 to $2,600. That's what the statistics say. I'm not feeling $2,600. I don't have anything rented within the last 3-4 months for $2,600. And I'm talking my homes in Lee Summit, Blue Springs, Staley High School, really nice areas. I'm not getting $2,600. So I don't know about that number. But yeah, rent growth has been up 4% in Clay County and up almost 6% in Jackson County. The average days on market is 32 days in Clay and about 30 days in Jackson. So that's up a little bit as well. So the market is kind of following the sale market. Homes are sitting, rentals are sitting, prices are kind of dropping a little bit on the rental. The vacancy rate is 5.1 in Clay County. In Jackson County, we're looking at about 6.5%. Let's look at the insights and how the difference between Clay and Jackson. If you're buying and investing in Kansas City, these are predominantly going to be the two counties that you're going to be playing in if you're buying the metro area. And so Clay County shows strong demand for single family rentals, particularly in Liberty and the North Kansas City school districts. Listings remain tight throughout Q4 of 2025. And while price growth has slowed, the floor for the 3-bedroom home has solidified at right around the $2,000 mark. So if you're underwriting homes, that would be a good number. If you want to be conservative, run a 1,900. If you want to be a little more aggressive, maybe you run a 2,000 number on your 3 bedrooms. And so that's something that I agree with. I'm feeling that when I in my Clay County stuff. Jackson County provides you growth and volume. This is where and the leader in this market is definitely going to be Blue Springs and Lee Summit. So it kind of skews Jackson County as the inner city. And, but you've got really strong markets like Blue Springs and Lee Summit. And Jackson County is outpacing Clay in year-over-year growth. And that's largely due to significant appreciation in some of these neighborhoods on the east and the south side of the metro area. So some of those inner city neighborhoods have some really high comps right now that I don't necessarily agree with, because I feel like that'll be the first area that falls when things correct. Let me see what else we got here. Let me move on to the next slide. The seasonal stall versus the economic softening. While November and December are usually slow months, it's Christmas, you got winter, you got people coming home from college, you got school break, you got winter break. And so nobody's trying to move during the holidays. and midterm. So price action kind of goes down, and I'm thinking it's kind of more than just a seasonal dip. There's concessions going on. I've had to rent homes for a cheaper price. I've been having to give deposit specials, first month free, just do a bunch of concessions across the metro area to rent some of my houses in December, January, and November, to be quite honest. And here's why. After 3 years of aggressive rent hikes, a lot of the tenancy in Clay County and Jackson County have hit like a rent ceiling, where the income can no longer support further increases. And so I'm feeling that, and I think the data will come in here in the next couple months to kind of support that, where the days on market are already looking a little higher. Increased inventory. There's been a big uptick in single family inventory, and it's not due to new construction, but rather I think it's more accidental landlords, homeowners who want to sell, but they can't get their price. And I know that's happening a lot. And when I talk to people from across the country, there's a lot of people just taking their homes off the market because they can't get the price they need, or they can't get the price they want. And so this creates like some shadow inventory in the market. And this is something that you're probably seeing right now. And so when homes do go vacant, they're probably competing against more units than they were in 23 and 24. Jackson County has high supply areas, especially parts in the inner city. You need more aggressive specials in those areas to combat vacancies. Clay County is more stable. The Liberty bubble, you saw a lot of new apartments coming up in Liberty and Park Hill and Tiffany and areas like that, which maybe pulls single family tenants away from single family homes. And so with the high end amenities and some of these pools and stuff like that, 2-month free move-in specials. And so this has taken away from our single family home, where people were moving into some of these apartments, but they've gotten so high as well right now. So we're seeing that a little bubble here in this Clay County area. So the good thing is, while I'm feeling a lot of stuff, I'm kind of sharing stuff with you that I'm going through here in Kansas City. We've got about 190 homes in our portfolio, and so we've been tapering off on these big rent increases. Maybe I might increase the rents 3%. Very rare am I going up to 5%. I'm just not trying to create vacancy right now in the wintertime. And let's talk about sticker price versus the effective price. So on paper, rents in Clay County and Jackson County look stable, but the smart money is watching for the concessions. You still might be renting homes, but you're not renting them for the same amount because you're offering so many concessions to get people in there. So if you got to give a month free or 2 months free or the last month free, you're really cutting into your yields, and you might just drop your yield by 8% just by doing that. So think about that, when you're kind of looking at things and you're underwriting your properties. Be careful and be conservative. You got anything, Marta?
Nope, go ahead.
All right. Hey, so we still got this mentorship program. If you're interested in getting in with our mentorship group or Facebook group, you can scan this QR code, take a screenshot of it. We have, it's super cheap. It's only $250 to get in. We've got collateral material in there on buy and hold, fix and flip, rehab, contractors, everything you're going to need to get started. It's a good entryway into the market. You have access to us, our companies, all of our services, all of our people. And so it's a really cheap way to get connected and get into a good group. So that's a $250. You'll get a class. You can take tests. You have a Facebook group. So click on that QR code. And Marta, you do the next one because that's your baby.
All right. Well, I have to take the time to brag about United. That's definitely my baby, as you said, Pat. And it's because I truly believe there is no other brokerage in Kansas City that's doing it well and paying 100% commission, full service, full technology, full training. You can scan the QR code that's on the screen now for a quick little 10-15 minute call with just some information. I'm not a high pressure sign today kind of person. So it's really just an informative call so that you know what else is out there. So when you are ready to make a change, you can make an informed decision. So go ahead and scan that. And the next slide we're really excited about. It's actually something we have put out for our United agents and then have learned recently that we can expand beyond just United agents for this new program. So we've partnered up with Nexa and started our own branch called Midwest Premier Lending Group. And it's basically the BDM program stands for Business Development Manager. You are essentially a part-time marketer for Nexa and all of the lending products that they have. The beautiful part about that is that it is completely RESPA compliant. And I'll get into more details on how that's possible for as long as we've been doing real estate. As the agent, you are consistently marketing unofficially another lender. You're sending them clients, you're referring them. And up to this point, it's really been something you do for free with really no compensation allowed due to the RESPA rules. So this allows for you to go ahead and market that program or the multiple programs, multiple lenders that are within our Nexa program. And so you'll learn a little bit more about that. Again, you don't have to be a United agent to be able to sign up for this program. So if you're interested, definitely let us know. The clients that you send over will have over 200 lenders to choose from. So you can do ITIN loans, DSCR loans, 30-year, 40-year. I think, Pat, you were working on what that was like a 40-year DSCR loan just the other
Yeah.
day. So anything and every loan program that's out there, you have access to through Nexa.
Yeah. And you
The
also,
compensation. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
So the way you get compensated is you become a part-time W-2 employee of Nexa. And at the end of every month, you will complete a form that explains exactly what you did to market Nexa that month. So whether you did a social media campaign or you created an ad or you sent out an email blast or you sent out text messages, whatever you did that month, you document and you turn that in. That's the way we say RESPA compliant so that we can truly show what your marketing efforts are. So this isn't a referral for one client that you happen to be working with and say, oh, you could work with Nexa. You're truly making marketing efforts throughout the entire month.
Right. And you don't have to take your NMLS. You don't need continuing ed. You don't need a 20-hour class. You don't have to become a loan officer. You don't have to do anything like that. And so when you refer the people over, we have mortgage loan officers who have 15, 20 years experience who will be taking care of your people. It's not us who's doing these loans. We've got professional loan officers that have tons of experience, who know the programs. And like Marta said, we've got access to FHA, VA, conventional, Fannie, Freddie, all that government stuff. And then on top of that, you have all the DSCR, rehab loans, N loans, lines of credit, commercial loans. And so as an agent, as you're sitting at lunch or you're sitting at dinner or you're sitting with customers and clients, all you got to do is ask them, have you guys been approved for financing? And if the answer is yes, let me check and see what we can do. If we can get you something better, great. If not, let's roll with yours. And we're educated and we just want to get you the best deal. And so it's super simple, super easy. And it's really a new program that's getting rolled out. And so it takes literally 30 minutes to sign up over a Zoom. And so I can send you an email, you fill out a couple links, and then we jump on a Zoom and it takes about 30 minutes and you're good to go. So your compensation is you're going to be a W-2 employee of Nexa. You're going to have a Nexa email. You're going to have limited access to a back office system. You got to fill out marketing forms every month to stay RESPA compliant. But it's really simple and really easy. You don't have to take an application. You don't have to process. You don't have to get W-2s and run around and pick things up. You don't
Yeah,
have to do a
you're
loan.
not an actual loan officer. Yeah, you're just marketing, but you do get paid 0.5% at closing when a loan does close. That's been from your marketing efforts. So for example, if it's a $300,000 home or a loan, then that's $1,500 compensation to you. So it definitely can add up. We are always looking at ways to increase the money that our agents are making. And so this is an exciting program. So hopefully you guys all take advantage of it. Compensation, again, I'm going to repeat, is based on marketing activity, not based on referrals or steering or conditioned on the usage of any specific settlement services.
Yeah.
All right.
So you can scan that QR code if this is something that interests you, but for sure, this is another vertical that, we're all about making as much money as you can from one transaction. This is just another vertical that we're bringing to the table for our agents. We're talking retention, we're talking recruitment, we're talking keeping your clients happy. And think about this. We all know the biggest part of this is actually going to be the refinances. So think about all the customers and your network and everybody you just sold homes to the last 2-3 years at sitting on 6.5%, 7%. This year rates are going to, we just sold a deal the other day at 5.25% on a 30-year term and 5.125%. And so we got that locked in on a 30 on an owner occupied loan. And so for rates to get down into the 4s, it's going to happen this year. And so think about all the refis, all the purchases. There's so much business that you can drum up. So on a $300,000 loan, you get an extra $1,500. And so super easy. Eric just put in there, he signed up. It was super easy, super fast. And it's just another vertical and ways to make more money. You can
Well, and
bring
also I
money to
think
your family.
beyond that, Pat, if I can chime in, definitely another way to service your clients properly as well. We all know as the realtor sometimes how frustrating it is to be watching them work with somebody that's not getting it done. There's no rush. They're not reviewing the documents until 2 weeks before closing, or underwriting catches things that should have been caught from the loan officer up front. So I think beyond that, just knowing that that your client is being well taken care of and treated with white gloves, that goes also, into the way that you're treating your client when you're working with them as a realtor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's jump into this line of credit and let's talk about it. I mean, we're, while investors are complaining here and they're saying the banks are tight and the rates are high and deals don't pencil and credit is dead, that's the noise. And that's what we're hearing. But most people blaming the market, sitting on the sidelines, waiting for permission, waiting for rates to drop. And we've been doing the opposite. Deal after deal, line of credit after line of credit. We've got tons of them. And we've got packages. Like, we'll wait till we get 10, 15 homes. We'll take them to a bank and get one $3 million, $4 million line. And now we can use that money to go buy more property. So we don't have a guest in the chair today. This is Marta and I. We're going to talk to you guys about exactly what we do. And I can tell you this right now. This has been the one strategy that has separated us from all other investors. It's so powerful, and we pay off our debt so fast with this line of credit strategy. And we're going to explain exactly how this works, what the banks actually care about, how to position your assets, and how to turn equity into fuel, and deploying capital really quick on projects and on investments. And we're going to break down our lines, how they work, show you how we qualify faster and how we've built banking relations that actually move the needle, and how we use credit to grow instead of getting trapped. None of our equity is trapped in our properties. And so having access to that at any time, and the best, they say the best time to get a loan or to look for a loan is when you don't need it. And so having access and having that money just sitting there waiting for it to be used. And while it's waiting, we're not paying anything on it. It's kind of like a credit card. You got access to the money. If you don't use it, you don't pay. And when you do use it, you do pay, but it's simple interest. So we're kind of going to go over this. Buckle up. Once you understand how we think about capital and how we handle our capital and our leverage. I don't think you're going to look at real estate the same ever again. And we're going to pull the curtain back and get started. So, Marta, you go ahead and take the next one.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm extremely excited for you guys to watch this show, take notes, really, really don't look at your phone. Don't be looking on social media. Really, really pay attention today because as Pat referred to it earlier, he called it our oxygen, and it truly is oxygen to our business. It's what's allowed us to grow because having that liquidity, as we said, is everything. Otherwise, you eventually, no matter how much money you have, the more you invest, you will eventually run out of money and you stop your own growth. And so this is what allows you to continue to buy more and to have more buying power, more leverage. So we are going to show you today how to pay off your existing mortgage, your 30-year mortgage, in about 7 to 10 years, which I know sounds like clickbait, but truly that's what we've done. We are real life examples of this, so we're excited to share this with you guys. Also, you can pay off student loans, credit card debt, which is at like 27%, and any other kinds of loans, so not just necessarily your mortgage. You will save hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest as we have done. You will use the bank's money, which is the beautiful part about this, to help pay off their own mortgage. You will increase your monthly available cash flow. You'll lower your interest costs without refinancing. That's the key. You'll improve your credit score, and you will do all of this with your existing budget. So extremely excited for today. All right, Pat, you want to
Yeah.
explain? So the powerful piece of why this works is the difference between simple interest and compound interest. So Pat, if you want to dive
Yeah. So
into what compound interest is.
I'll explain what compound amortized debt is, and then you kind of explain what simple interest is. But your home mortgage is compound amortized debt, right? So you're looking at a front-loaded debt situation. You have a mortgage for $300,000. Your payment is set, and it's like that. If month 2 on your mortgage you pay $100,000 into your mortgage, your payment's still the same, right? And so more might go to principal, but your payment's still the same, and it's just a front-loaded debt vehicle. Most traditional home loans are using monthly compounding amortization, and that's great, right? It's compound interest is good when you're getting it, like your 401k, your IRA, stuff like that. It's terrible when you're paying it. It's the worst thing you can pay. And why do you think they allow you to write the interest off on your taxes after they just screwed you the whole time? And so you got to think about certain things. And so when you're structuring a simple interest loan compared to a compound amortized loan, the bank is calculating a fixed payment for you on a compound amortized loan over 15 or 30 years. And so the trap is in the first 7 to 10 years of a 30-year mortgage, 70 to 80% of that payment is going toward interest, and it's not even going toward principal. And statistics show that most people only keep their loan or stay in their house for 7 to 10 years. They're either refinancing or they're selling. So when you front load something like that and you're paying all interest and then you refinance or you sell something, you didn't get any opportunity to take advantage of principal reduction. And so that's the trap when it comes to compound amortized debt. So the compounding effect is if you miss a payment or you let interest accrue, the bank adds that interest to the balance. And so now you're paying interest on top of interest. And that is never good for you as a consumer. And everybody that owns a house knows you can just pull your amortization schedule out from your loan docs and just look at what you pay to interest and what you pay to principal the first 10 years of your loan. You're going to get pissed off and you're going to get mad, and you can eliminate that with the line of credit. So you pay the same amount on the first month as you do the last month, the 10th month, the 150th month. You're paying the same amount, and you're not going to do that with a line of credit.
And you can request, by the way, if you have no idea what that amortization schedule looks like, you can request that from your bank, or you can also go to bankrate.com is a website I like, and type in all of your information and get an amortization schedule so you can see exactly what we're talking about, how much you're paying toward principal, how little you're paying toward principal, and how much you're paying toward interest.
Yeah. Now, with your compound, your compound amortized loan, your 30-year mortgage, you usually have a fixed rate, right? And a fixed term. So that's good. Where, sometimes our line of credit is it's variable. And I'll show you and tell you why I don't really care about that. But that makes people feel safe, but it's a trap. And so, like I said earlier, compound interest is good when you receive it. It's great for your 401k, for your IRA. The worst thing you can do is pay it. And that's exactly what a mortgage is. And so eliminating a debt vehicle that's heavy interest up front is really smart. And I'm going to say it again, getting rid of a debt vehicle where you're paying all interest up front, you're just throwing money away, no principal reduction. And so this is something that you need to fix. And let's look at how, and this graph here kind of shows, the next slide kind of shows how things work right now. So people right here, they make some money, right? So your earned income, you put the money into your checking account. And then from your checking account, you pay your expenses, your cell phone bill, gas, water, electric, kids, whatever. And then you pay your amortized mortgage. Okay. And that's your life today. And that's poor cash flow. And that's no velocity. Okay. And so what we're doing is we create a line of credit. And from that line of credit, I can put in my W-2, my wife's W-2, our business income, our rental income, our income from all of our investments. We sweep everything into that line of credit. And so when you have a line, you have to remember it's kind of like a credit card. You don't lose the money. A mortgage is a one-way vehicle. You only can put money in. You can't take money back out. So if you have a $2,000 mortgage and you pay $5,000, that $3,000 you paid is stuck. You can't get it back. With a line of credit, you can. And so sliding all your money into these lines and eliminating the checking account is part of the strategy. And so if you look at this graph here, if you have a line of credit and you have your debt in the line of credit and you can sweep all the money into the line of credit, imagine how fast you can pay stuff off. And the fact that you have simple interest, which is what we'll go into on the next slide. So if I'm sliding everything into the line, and then from my line, I'm paying my expenses and my monthly payment and my amortized mortgage, this is where the velocity happens. And this is where you optimize your cash flow and you never really lose the money. The money's just sitting there. If you need it, you can go back and get it. But instead of your money sitting in a checking account that makes jack shit, you're going to have your money sitting in a line of credit where you're paying down interest every single month. And in a simple interest line of credit, if you have $100,000 line and you pay $50,000 in this month, your next month's payment is based off of $50,000. It's not based off of 100,000. And so that's really strong when you think about it. You ever stop to think how you pay off $100,000 Escalade in 5 years, but you can't pay $100,000 to your mortgage? There's a reason for that. And it's the debt vehicle. It's the debt structure. And so your mortgage is compound amortized, where your home loan, your car loan is simple interest. And so very different type of structure. And so take a look at this graph. You can take a picture of it. We'll go to the next one on kind of what's a line of credit. Marta, you can explain that on the next slide.
All right. So a line of credit, again, so we want to get you thinking about money differently, right? We want you to think like a high level investor, a capital strategist. So we don't want you to look at money the way most people do. Most people look at a bank account like a bucket to store cash, and we want you to look at it as a clog in the system. So think differently. So a line of credit is a flexible revolving loan from a financial institution that allows you to borrow funds as needed up to a pre-approved amount. So unlike a traditional loan where you receive a one lump sum, A line of credit allows you to draw portions of that total amount at your discretion, so as needed. So the line of credit usually does still use a property as collateral, like your mortgage does, but the difference is it's an accordion, right? So we call it the financial accordion because you can use it and pay it off and use it and pay it off. So we're kind of dating ourselves by calling it an accordion. I don't think the youth know what that instrument is, or would the youth even watch? Hopefully they are. Pat and I bought our first property at 22. So hopefully we're inspiring the youth to get out there and buy some investment properties. But that is why we call it the financial accordion. And that's the beautiful part that, as Pat mentioned, you're only making payments when you're using it. So you're using it and paying it off as many times as you want. So it's not like that mortgage vehicle where you can only use it once. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you want to add
And
anything, Pat?
your simple interest, your formula for your simple interest is basically your loan amount times your interest rate divided by 365 days. So if you have a $100,000 line and your interest rate is 6%, you multiply 100 times 6%, divide that by 365 days, and that's your daily interest. And you take that daily interest, multiply it by 30, and that's your monthly interest. That's what's due every single month. And so large deposits and you putting all your cash flow into this line of credit is how you pay things off really, really fast. And we'll kind of go into some examples a little bit later, you know,
Yeah, I
on that.
think we'll go over actually the very first property we ever did apply this into at a River Market property at 511 Delaware and show you guys those numbers as well.
Yeah. So the next slide, let's kind of talk about that. We kind of touched on the two types of debt instruments. You got loans and you got lines. Okay, and you can make payments, but you can't make withdrawals from loans. Okay, so that's it's not a benefit for us. Okay, now you can make payments and withdrawals from line of credits. So your line of credit is similar, exact same thing as a checking account. Okay, so a checking account, you can put money in, you can take money out. A line of credit, you can put money in, you can take money out. It's the exact same vehicle. Okay, so you taking debt in your line of credit where you can just put in a bunch of money and have it stored there and have it saved there instead of putting it into a checking account is one of the things you need to tweak in your mind a little bit. You shouldn't
Right,
be
because
putting money in.
normally, if it's a traditional mortgage, you normally wouldn't think, let me put all of my W-2 income, as Pat said, let me put all of my money, all of my extra income from my rentals, let me pay it all down to the mortgage. You wouldn't do that because then you think, okay, well, if the roof needs to be replaced next year, where will I get that money? You can't go back to that bank and say, hey, let me have some of that money back to replace my roof. With the line of credit, you always have that access to it, as he's touched on. So that's the reason you can put all of that extra income to pay it down as quick as possible without that fear of not having access to it.
Yeah. And refinancing is tough. I mean, if you've got a loan for 5 to 7 years and you refinance, you just reset the 30-year loan. So now you're paying everything to interest again. So when you're refinancing, think that that's, you know, you're resetting the 30-year mark again. And so that's something you need to think about. And I can tell you where I learned this. So I went to Australia for 3 weeks, like 15 years ago. And in Australia, this is how they bank. Every home in Australia is $1 million at least. Like Australia is like LA, you know, everything's expensive. And so, you know, but those guys have their house, their cars, everything's in a line of credit. And so when I was hanging out with the fellas and they was like, oh, it's Friday, we got to go make a deposit to our line of credit. I was like, deposit to your line? That sounds funny. In America, we make payments. And he was like, yeah, that's why you Americans are the only idiots who have 30-year debt. Like, you guys are not thinking about this right. And they kind of explained the process to me. And I was like, holy crap, that is crazy. I can't believe I never thought about that. And so I learned this strategy on what they do. And I called my wife and I said, babe, when we get back, I'm going to do this with a building and we're going to implement this strategy. And we did it on one asset and then we've done it on all of our assets after that. So let's kind of, I don't want to get too far ahead here. But just to kind of go through on the next slide, we can kind of talk about, the amortized mortgage and the simple interest line of credit. Your amortized mortgage is going to be monthly fixed schedule. Your simple interest is daily, just on what's in the balance. That's what you're paying on. Your principal pay down on an amortized mortgage is very slow in the early years, and simple interest, it's instant with every deposit. You're paying it down. Liquidity is trapped on a mortgage until you sell or you refi. On a simple interest, it's 100% accessible 24/7 all the time. It's like cash. Cash flow impact. On an amortized mortgage, you have a high fixed monthly cost. And on a simple interest line of credit, the interest drops as the cash flow increases. And so your payment actually gets cheaper and cheaper as the principal reduction goes down. And so here's what you need to get a line of credit. And most people, here's how it's going to happen. And this is a game, I don't know how to explain it without sounding too rude, but this is a game where you got to have cash flow. You got to have some assets. If you're sitting here broke with no job, this ain't going to work for you. Like or if you're month to month, if you're making $2,000 a month and you're spending $2,000 a month and you have no cash flow, you have no extra, this is going to be a hard strategy for you to pull off. If you have no equity, this is going to be a hard strategy for you to pull off. So most of my investors and most of my people are starting with a line of credit on their primary residence. So if you have a home that's worth $400,000 and all you owe on the house is $200,000, any bank will give you an 80% LTV on that property. So if you have, let me use this example, $500,000 house and your mortgage is $250,000, 80% of the $500,000 is $400,000. Okay, now you have a $250,000 mortgage. So $400,000 minus the $250,000 mortgage, there's a $150,000 line of credit available to you in that moment. And so you now have access to $150,000 just sitting there in the bank. You don't make a payment on it if you don't draw on it. And if you do draw on it, the rule has to be, for us, the rule was we could never draw on money unless it made money, which means we couldn't draw on our line to pay for vacations, pay for Disney, pay for cars, pay for vehicles. If the thing's going down in value, I wouldn't use my line. If it was fun, dinner, vacation, I wouldn't use my line. So the rule for us, real strict, was if it wasn't an asset that was going up and it wasn't an investment, and if we couldn't make money with it, we wouldn't do it. And so this is how you have access to $150,000. You can go buy a rehab project for $100,000. You've got $30,000 to rehab it, and you can use that money to buy the property cash. You can use the money to rehab the property cash. Now you have a free and clear asset in your portfolio, and you can take that asset to the bank and ask them to refinance you in another line of credit. And you would take that line from the second bank, pay off your line with the first bank, and you're back to zero on this line. And now you have a line of credit here with your rental property. And now you have a vehicle that you can sweep all the rent into, not just the payment, but you can sweep all the money and pay it off really quick. And we'll kind of show you an example of how we did. Let's go to the next slide, and we'll give you a real life example on a commercial building that we still own to this day in the city market.
I can't hear you anymore, Pat, but hopefully everyone can still hear me. So we're going to go ahead and go through an example of a real life property, our first commercial property that we applied this to. It's 511 Delaware. As Pat stated, we did have equity, which is necessary for this to work properly. The building we had purchased for about $450,000. When we applied this to it, we only owed about $350,000, but it had gone up in value, which many of you are sitting on that locked up equity that you're not doing anything with because things have gone up. Values have gone up in the past few years. So you are sitting on a gold mine that you're not using. So the property at that point, when we got it evaluated by an appraiser, was worth $1 million. We got a 75% loan to value loan on it, so 750,000. So again, we're using the bank's money to pay off its own loan. So we got that line of credit for 750. Then the 350K loan was paid off. So, and we also had money sitting in the bank from all of the rents we had been collecting. There was 200K just sitting there. And again, we wouldn't have thought to do anything with it to pay down that mortgage because again, you think that you would need it for an emergency. So we went ahead and took that 200K, paid it down further. Now we were left with just 150K balance. And so we applied all 12,000 a month of income that it was bringing in. So we paid this property off in 13 months. And I'll tell you, when we show you the next slide where you can see the calculator, when Pat first came home from Australia and we said, okay, let's try this. And we plugged in all the numbers into this calculator that you're about to see, we literally got chills. And I thought 13 months, that we must have done something wrong. That doesn't sound right because again, we still had like 20 years left on our mortgage. And so I'm thinking we're making 20 years worth of payments in 13 months. I said, that doesn't sound right. We must have done something wrong. Let's put the numbers in again. And sure enough, it absolutely worked out that way. We had it paid off in 12 months and we never looked back since. So let's go to the next slide where we can actually show you guys what those numbers look like. Yeah, there we go, Pat, if you want to give them examples. And if you listeners or viewers have a property that you want us to go through a real live example, feel free to put that in the chat there and we can try and type it in. Pat, is this something you can modify or is it just a screenshot?
No, this is just a screenshot, but I have the calculator and I can present my screen and kind of put it
I
in.
can't hear you. I hope
But
everybody
we
else can
need
hear you.
certain things to we need some criteria, like the green boxes in this calculator are variables. And so this is kind of where you would put the money. But in the example that we just went over, the debt balance was 350,000. My rate at that time was 5.75%. So my debt payment was $2,000 and I had $9,000 cash flow on that building at that time. And so if I just made an extra $300 payment, and it kind of shows you right here, if you look down here, the total interest paid on the amortized loan is $385,000. Okay, that's the total interest I would have paid on that amortized paper. Now, the middle column, the orange one, is if we paid an extra $300 a month. And you can put that variable. I could have put 1,000, I could have put whatever in there, and it'll give you what you would save on interest. Okay, and then the velocity banking, the green column, is so my rate on my line of credit was 6.5. The net income I was getting in there, I was getting my income. I should say gross, but the income was $12,000. My total expenses was $3,000, and the $3,000 includes taxes, insurance, management fees, stuff like that we just had. So there was about a $3,000 take. Almost 30% of the income that was coming in went to pay expenses. Okay, and so that left $9,000 cash flow. The difference between basic velocity and advanced velocity is we kind of did the advanced velocity strategy where we took the $350,000 balance and paid it off entirely with the line of credit. That's advanced. Okay, so when we did that, look at how much we paid in interest, and it says 2 years, 2.9 years, but it was actually faster than what we did to pay it off, because what this doesn't show is the $200,000 deposit that we made. So when you think about how strong this strategy is, I had 200 grand sitting in a checking account, not doing anything. I had a $350,000 line of credit. I would never pay 200 grand into a mortgage because that money would be stuck. It's a one-way vehicle. But because I had a line of credit, I could put the 350,000 line, and now I have a vehicle that I can put money in and I can take money out. So it behooves you to leave 200,000 in a checking account when you can pay that money into the line of credit and you still have access to it. If I need the money, I can go get it. If I don't need the money, it just sits there and pays down the balance. And so I eliminated that checking account. I took the 200 grand and I put it into the line of credit. So day one, I took out the line. Day two, my line went from 350 to 150, 200 grand less. And I just left the money in there and I still had access to that money. If I needed something, I could go get it. So now all I owe is 150. My new payment is 150 at 6.5%. Whatever that payment is, I got my $12,000 rent that month. I had $9,000 cash flow. I swept all 9 grand to the 150. Now I owe 150 minus 9,000 the following month. And so you redo the formula I told you before on how you figure out the payment. Next month, I got 9 grand. I applied all 9 grand to it, and I just kept chunking away. And before you know it, the building is paid off. I've got $1 million valuation. I've got no loan. I've got access to 750 grand on that property. Today, I still own this property. Now there's a $2 million valuation, and I have a $1.7 million line on this building right now. And just to let you know what I'm doing with that money, I've got 1.7 million bucks on that. I got $1.7 million on that building, and I've got that on an investment where I'm making. So it costs me right now. My lines are at 6%. So it costs me 6% for that money. I put it into an investment where I make 9% a month. I got a 3% arbitrage, and I got a 2-time exit in 2 years. So I'm going to get 1.7 times 2 on that money, and it should pay off this year. And so that's the kind of stuff that I'm doing with these lines on the investment side. So this velocity calculator we have, you can put us in the chat. You can kind of talk to us. People in our mentorship group have access to this. This is the kind of stuff that the $250 mentorship group will get you. And so when it's stuff like the strategy like this, people that things that you guys need to know that nobody's talking about. Can you hear me, Marta, or is your thing fixed now? Okay, perfect. You can go. I'll talk about this next one. Here's another. So I kind of went over the first building that we did and how we did it. Here's something that would be more common, okay, and a way that you can pay down your mortgage using this strategy. So let's say you have a $450,000 value on a house, okay, and you have a $300,000 mortgage, and you're at 6%, okay. And after you pay all your bills, you have $1,500 a month left over. Okay, so you pay your mortgage, you pay everything, and you've got $1,500. And right now, you're probably just sweeping that $1,500 into some checking account. Okay, that's poor velocity, poor cash flow, poor cash management, poor debt management. And so what we're going to teach you is to fix that. So right now, you can go to Community America, you can go to Pony Express Bank, you can go to Cornerstone Bank, any of these small local banks. I would start with wherever your mortgage is now and call them and ask them if they have some sort of line of credit vehicle. So on a $450,000 appraised value, 80% of that would be $360,000. You have a $300,000 mortgage. So that would leave you a $60,000 line of credit. Okay, so you can close this deal in 30 days. You can call me. I can do lines of credits for all you guys. And so you have a $60,000 line of credit now. Okay. Think about this. If you just took 10 grand from the 60,000 and you applied that to your mortgage. Okay. So you take 10 grand from your line and you pay 10 grand to your mortgage. I want you to pull out your amortization schedule and find today's date, go look for January 26 or February 26. Look at what you owe on your amortization schedule to your loan right now. And then look at what you owe if you applied 10 grand. So go down the column, if your loan's 300,000, go down your column till you got to 290. Okay. And look at how many months and how many years you took off your mortgage just by paying 10 grand to it. Okay, that's how much money you've saved, and look at the interest column and look at how much interest you save. So now you owe $300,000 to your mortgage and you owe $10,000 to your line of credit. So you now have a debt vehicle in your line of credit. Now you have $5,000 sitting in your checking account right now you would take the 5,000 out of your checking account and just apply it to your line of credit. Okay, so now all you owe is 5 grand on your line of credit if you had 5,000 in the checking account. Okay, and now you have 1,500 a month cash flow just coming in. You'll have that paid off in 3-4 months. Okay, so you've reduced your mortgage by probably
Years.
2 years, 3 years with 10 grand, maybe more, and depending on your interest rate, and you've paid it off in 3. And say you didn't have 5 grand in the account. Say you had no money in the account, but you had 1,500 a month extra, and you just swept all 1,500 into the line. You know, you would have that line paid off in 8 months, 7.5 months. And if you need the money, it's there. Just go to the line and get it. But you got to eliminate the checking account. The first part of the strategy is get the line of credit. The second part of the strategy is eliminate the checking account and sweep all the money into the line of credit. So when I have a rental property and my mortgage on the rental property is 100 grand at 6%, and say my payment is $600, but my rent is 1,500, I'm sweeping all 1,500 into the line. Say I make in my line, sometimes I have multiple properties. Say I sell a house, I borrowed 150, I rehabbed it for 50, I'm in it for 200, and I sell it for 250, 275. I sweep all 275. I pay back the 150 price, I pay back the $50,000 rehab, and then I put the 50,000 cash flow into the line and pay that all off too. And before you know it, my line is down low, and gone within 7 to 10 years. And this is how we've paid off all of our stuff, and how we have access to so much capital is by using this debt structure. So if you go back to this system right here, it makes it real easy to understand if you use small numbers. Even if you use 5 grand, if you've got $60,000 line and you took $5,000 from your line of credit and paid it off to your mortgage, look at how much interest you saved with that one payment, and then look at how fast you can pay back the line if you just sweep your cash flow, your wife's income, your income, any sort of bonuses, any sort of rent, any sort of dividends, whatever it is that you get, child support, whatever, just sweep it all into the line, and you'll have it paid off. So you can see how you need cash flow. You can see how you need some equity. And here's the strategy on that. So here's the calculator with the example that we just talked about here with the $300,000 mortgage, the calculator. So there's the $300,000 mortgage at 6%. Look at how much you pay in interest, almost $347,000 in interest over 30 years. Okay. And if you've got $8,000 a month, look at basic velocity banking, the green column. You know, if you've got $8,000 a month and you've got expenses of $6,500 and you have $1,500 cash flow coming in, and you apply that $1,500 toward the line, you pay your loan off in 11 years, and the interest you pay is only $117,000. You save $229,000 of interest just by implementing this strategy. That's money that's going to your family. That's money that's going to your legacy. That's money that's going to investments. That's money you're not paying the bank and you're keeping. That's how powerful this strategy is. And so you can, when you think about it in small numbers and small terms, and you try it with 5 grand, then you try it with 10 grand, then you try it with 20 grand, you know, before you know it, you might just take a whole building or a whole asset and just get a line against it and pay it. And so all of you people who've been sitting in your house for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, you've got equity in your property right now. Unlock it, untrap it, use it, and pay your stuff off faster and start getting into some other investments, start getting into some other stuff. My lines right now are at prime -0.5, prime -3/4. Okay, so prime's at 7% right now, -3/4 is 6.25. Okay, that's kind of 6 to 6.25 is where my lines are sitting right now with all my stuff is at 6.25. Everything that I have right now, I don't have any rate at 6.5 right now. And so this is kind of where If you guys have questions, put them in the chat. We're kind of coming to the tail end of this. The
I think
next
what I
slide.
wanted to add something, Pat. I know you said, you're saying, hey, start smaller, think of it as small, and so it's easier to process. But also for the larger investors who are watching, when you think big, it's also extremely exciting, because what you can do once you have these paid off properties, now you can package them up and have a bundle of assets that have no mortgage that now you can turn around and get a line of credit on. And that's when it gets really exciting. That's when the numbers open up for you, where you can get a really large line to buy a multifamily apartment building or buy a commercial or retail and really step up your game and go to the next level.
Yeah, yeah. And so just like anything, I mean, it takes time. And here's another thing. You can put up your 401k. If you've got a $200,000 401k, whoever holds your 401k will give you a line against that. If you have
Life
life
insurance.
insurance, cash value life insurance, you can put that policy up for collateral. And because it never goes backwards, a whole life policy, you'll probably get my insurance policy. I got like 5 million cash value. We're at 5% on that particular line. And so I can go get money at 5 and I can loan it out to somebody at 12, 13, 14% on a hard money loan for 6 months. That's the power of the line of credit. Let me talk about one last thing and then we'll jump on the questions. So people are going to ask, what happens if the bank cancels your line? Okay, so you've swept all this money, you've swept all this equity into the line of credit, and then the bank cuts your line. Okay, you want to touch on that, Marta?
Well, we've never actually had that happen. I think the downside that I think we've experienced a little bit is when the rates have gone up. And so because it's not fixed, I would say that's the bigger or the biggest downfall of this strategy, is you're not locked in. And so when rates were creeping up there for a minute, we had 8-9% rates. However, if you go back to that calculator and you really compare side by side, 9% simple interest versus 5-6% compound interest, you're still better off with the line of credit with simple interest. However, I will say if rates dip back down again to 4s and 5s, definitely lock in some 30-year mortgages with the ability to still do a combination of both. You'll still have a line of credit to pay off that mortgage. So you're going to have a fixed 30-year mortgage, but your goal is not to pay it off in 30 years. You will still apply this strategy and pay it off much quicker.
Yeah. I could tell you one thing I'm going to do different. So I've been doing this strategy for probably, I don't even know, maybe over 10 years now. And so when I started this strategy, rates were really low. So I was in the 5s, 4s even on this line of credit strategy. And so when we got to, we didn't fix anything. And so when prime went to 8.5%, 9%, man, it cut into our cash flow. And that was probably a mistake that I didn't do. So right now, at one bank, I might have $6 million of lines. Maybe if rates get back into the 4s on a non-owner, I don't know if that'll happen, maybe the high 5s, the mid 5s, I might lock in half of that line. So instead of having a $6 million line, I might lock in $3 million on something fixed. And you got to know too, like commercial loans, the shit's only fixed for 5 years. They don't do 30-year fixed commercial type loans and stuff like that. So once you get over 10 properties, you're kind of in a different ball game when it comes to finance, and everything you're going to have to do is commercial, and it's only fixed for 5 years anyway. So I had a 5-year fixed on an apartment building that just went to 8 and with Nottoway Valley, and I just refinanced with Cornerstone Bank, and my rate's at 6% with Cornerstone. And so that's kind of the drawback.
I'm glad you touched on the bank names, Pat, because I think that's a question we get a lot is, okay, I'm interested. Who do I reach out to? Your small local banks. Well, for one, reach out to Pat and we can recommend somebody. But your small local banks will always be the best bet versus going to a large institutional bank.
Yeah. And when shit hits the fan, Bank of America, Chase, those big national brands, those are the guys who get hurt. Even in the recession of 2007, 2008, I had lines at that time. I was doing this already. And my small local banks, Central Bank, Pony Express Bank, all these small, they were still strong. They were
Liberty
still giving
Bank,
loans.
Bank
Yeah,
Liberty.
Liberty Bank, they were still giving loans at that time. It was the big local bank that was cutting the lines and doing, and we've never had a bank cut our line of credit. Never has that happened to us. And so that's something that people are fearful of. And then what if, because it's on a variable rate, if rates go up, what happens? And so to protect yourself, you might lock in something, maybe lock in half or 40% of the line at something fixed, and then have the rest to just draw and pay off, draw and pay off, and you can play with that. And so that's kind of my strategy and what I'm gonna do different. Here, let's take a look at some of these questions here. We can, what's the difference between this and a HELOC? So that's a question from Evan.
So a HELOC is a line of credit. It's just a
Yeah.
home equity line of credit is what the H and the E stands for there. So that's specific to your primary home that you live in.
Right. And so this is kind of the same. This is kind of the same thing. And so how I'm doing things, let me explain how I'm doing things. So what I do is, say I have my life insurance line and I've got $5 million in there. I can go out and buy a whole bunch of homes cash, remodel a whole bunch of homes cash. I'll get up to 15, 20 homes, and then I'll put those 15, 20 homes up as collateral. I get them appraised, and I get a 75% line against those properties. When I have that line of credit, I can draw off of that line, pay off my life insurance line, and now I have a zero balance on my life insurance line, and I have a new $4 million line here with the new bank. And with
That's
that
being
$4
paid
million,
by the assets.
that's being paid by the assets. And not only is it being paid, I'm paying extra. I'm paying all the cash flow. I don't live off my cash flow and my rents. I live off the businesses that I have. And so my rents, I sweep all that money into there. And from the 20 homes, say I sell 10 of those properties. If I sold 10 of those properties and I sweep all the money, all the rents into the line, I'll have that line paid off in 5 years, be done. And so that's how strong this 5 to 7 years, that's how strong this strategy is. Let me see another question real quick. Amy, what's up, Amy? So how did I get that rate? That's a good question. I've heard
Is she
in
referring to the
general,
prime minus?
yeah, I've heard of general prime plus. So
Yeah.
here's something you need to know. When you got to be a customer of the bank. Like, you got to have big deposits in there. I usually run my businesses in these banks, and with banks, just like real estate, everything's negotiable. So when I go to a bank, I'm looking for prime minus, and you got to ask. Some banks will do it, some banks won't, and you just
It
find
comes down to that banking relationship, though. It's like
yeah,
everything else. It's all about you may not start off there, but once you start that relationship and they see that you're paying things off and you pay on time, you will absolutely improve that relationship, and then you can ask for prime minus. But yeah, prime plus is where we actually started off as well.
yeah,
Plus
and
one.
yeah, and when you're taking one asset and you're doing 200 grand, 300 grand, you're going to get a prime plus. When you're taking 15, 20 homes and you're looking at a $3-4 million line, that's when they look at prime minus. They might charge you a half a point origination, prime minus. And so that's where all my stuff is right now. I don't have a rate in my portfolio over 6.5 right now. 6.5 is my highest interest rate on all my debt when it comes to, and all my debt is real estate. I have zero debt besides that. And so we've taken, we've got
Yeah,
lines.
you want to be a strong borrower is what you're saying. So definitely making sure that your credit's good and all of those things increase the likelihood of getting a better rate.
Yeah. I know my man Mike's on here. He's gotten lines from Community America. And he said they even do 10-year lines. So they'll give you 10 years. And that's something else you want to negotiate. You don't want to do annual lines, that because every year that you got to pay another fee, you got to do something. So I usually ask for at least 5 years. I try to get 10, but most of my lines are at least 5 to 10 years. I don't have to get
Credit
new
unions,
appraisal.
that's a really good point, Mike. Credit unions are a great place to go to.
Yeah, I don't have to get appraisals and all kinds of stuff. And in fact, what's happened is our balances have went down so low, and we've owned these properties for so long that in 5 to 6 years, 7 years, we got them all reappraised, and they raised our line. And so once the banks understand, hey, this guy knows what he's doing and he knows how to play with this money, and he's paying way more in than what he's taking out, and he's a really good borrower, that's the kind of banks love when you borrow and pay, borrow and pay, borrow and pay. That's how they make money, is interest on loans. And so being a good customer and having all my businesses at these banks that I got these lines at, I just sweep all the money into these lines and pay stuff off. Connor Reeves says, does this make sense for someone who has a mortgage below 3%? 100% it does. Now, maybe taking 6% money to pay off 3% money, I mean, to me, it still makes sense. And I'm going to explain to you why.
I think if your goal is to pay it off, then it definitely still makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. If you have the cash flow, so I wouldn't take 6% money to pay off 3% money and pay off slow. I wouldn't do that. But if you have $2,000, $3,000 laying around every month, and you can take 10 grand and pay down your 3% mortgage and take off all that years off your mortgage, and then you've got $3,000 extra and you can pay that off in 3 months, you still come out ahead. And remember, we're not going to refinance a 3% mortgage. You need to stay on that mortgage. This is going to be on top of that. And so you could use it
to pay it down to zero so that you're
Right.
paying nothing.
Yeah. And you can use it to get into other investments, So like for me, I know my deal is 6.5. So I won't get into anything. I won't draw money off my line unless I can make at least 8, 9, 10% a month on that property. So that's why I do a lot of finance for investors and for my agents. I can charge 12%, and my cost of my capital is 6%. I can charge, I can get into investments that can pay me 8, 9% a month, 10% a month. And, so I'm even the stock market. Like if I know, like I'm betting, on things like gold and silver this year, where I'm buying a lot of it. And so I'll go get money from the bank at 6 to buy. I've been buying gold and silver for the whole last year. And right now I'm up so much on that stuff because the price is so high. And I got all that capital at 6% money from a line of credit. I threw it into a bunch of gold and a bunch of silver, and it's already, paying off. So you got to be smart with what you do. You got to take smart, calculated risk. But this is a powerful strategy, especially if you have access to 150, 200 grand. Just go buy a flip. Go buy a house for 100 grand, 120 grand, rehab it for 50. You're in it for 170, sell it for 225, 250, and pay back the line. And all cash. Or you can not flip the house, and you can take that free and clear asset, take it to the bank, put it up as collateral, and ask the bank for a line of credit. And the bank's going to sit here and try and tell you, no, you have to do a mortgage. And the answer is, no, you don't. I don't want a mortgage. I want a line of credit. They're going to try and sell you on a mortgage because the banks make more money on mortgages with the interest. It's not what you want. They have programs, they have vehicles for line of credit. Use it. Just I don't want a mortgage. I just want a line of credit.
Or they'll try to talk you into refinancing.
Yeah, refinancing, cash out. Don't do it. Just say, no, I just want a line of credit. Take it to the bank, have them put a line of credit. It's free and clear. It's rehabbed. It's rented. It's bringing in money, and it's got a high appraisal. Any bank will give you 70, 75%, maybe 65 to 75% on the line of credit. And so now you got that money you can draw off of, and you can just and you're basically doing a burr with a line of credit. I think we call it the burr lock. It's- you're doing the
I don't know
bird
if that's a
mention.
trademark.
I'm gonna trademark it right now. I just made that shit up, but that's a burlock where you just buy, rehab, remodel, refinance the line of credit, and that's
The line of
that's a burlock. And so, shit, that's a good one. I should sell that. That's a good deal. The burlock. Um,
moving on.
moving on. Moving on.
I think
Um,
there's another question on the screen. I can't see it.
okay, how many? Oh, I've got how many lines of credit do I have? How many we got? We have 7, 8.
We have a spreadsheet to track them all. So yeah, I think it's 8 right now.
Yeah, we've got 7 or 8 lines, and all of our lines are between, I'd say, 3 million to the biggest one, maybe 7 million, with all properties. So like every property that I have right now, with the exception of maybe 10 to 15, which is going to be my next line, it has a line of credit against it. So all my assets are tapped with the line. They're not all used. I haven't drawn out all the money, but I have access to that capital so that I can buy a building, I can buy an apartment, I can buy whatever I want, really cash at any time. And so the ease of life and the comfortability of life and not having, and like I said, if you need the money, you can go to the bank and go get it. It's not lost. It's a two-way street. You can throw your cash flow in there, pay your shit down. If you need the cash, go get it. If I need to go put on 15 roofs, I can go to one of 7 banks and go draw out the money right now and pay cash for them. When I need $500,000 at the end of the year to pay real estate tax, I stroke a check right out the line of credit and I pay all my taxes right out of the line of credit. One time, 1 month, line of credit, done. And so, but look at how much average daily interest I pay off from January to December just by using this strategy. That's think about stuff like that. And so Amy's asking, what did Cornerstone quote you? Do you use your line on hard money loans to other investors? 100% for sure I do. And I was thinking of doing this for 12% and 2 points. What do you think? I mean, I'll be honest, I'm charging 3 to 4 points. So I'm doing 3,500 to 4,000 origination. And then I'm knocking them for 12, 13, 14%. I don't even think I have a loan right now at 13. And if they don't want to do it, I'll be honest, me financing investors is the worst investment. When you calculate it at the end, you're only making not even 10% return on the money. And so you got to charge $4,000 origination. When you charge somebody 12, 13, 14%, that's annually. So when you do a 6-month loan, you're not getting that. You're getting only.
And then also I wanted to make sure, Amy, that you're signing promissory notes, that it's all being, in the up and up, all written down,
Note, deed of
tied
trust,
to
first lien.
exactly right. Yeah.
And so,
and limit it to 6 months as well. You don't want this dragging on because again, the numbers get worse the longer the loan is out, right? So make sure that you do no more than 6 months. They shouldn't need more than that to rehab a property.
And only finance in areas that you would want the property. I don't do inner city shit. I do Blue Springs, Lee Summit, North Kansas City, Gladstone, Liberty. I don't finance shit in the inner city because if I got to take it back, I don't want it. And I don't want to deal with that. And so I just stay in areas that I would take the property and I would own it. And I use solid people that I know, friends, family, agents, people that I trust. And I do this all the time. And so, like I said, all my banks I've negotiated. Now, don't go to these banks and get all huffy puffy with them and like, Pat told me he gets prime minus. Don't be getting me in trouble. Just what I negotiated and what I've done. You got to realize I've been doing this for years, and I know these banks and I know their families. And
they can try. They can try.
You can try, but don't just don't go getting all crazy with them. But do know that you can negotiate that, and the bigger your line is, the more negotiation power you have, and the bigger your deposits are, the more negotiation power you have. So when they're sitting here doing an $8 million line for me, but they're getting $70,000, $80,000 a month in rent coming in, that's good for them. That the numbers work for them, especially when they know my strategy. On a $7 million line of credit, you figure 7,000 per million. So you've got probably 50 grand in a payment that's due. Now, if I'm sweeping 80 to you every single month, they love that transaction. That's a good deal for them. And so they love that. And they know when I sell the house, I sweep all that money into it too. And so it's powerful. And once the banks know you know what you're doing, they you know, I didn't walk in like that, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. And Mike said, what kind of bank closing fees do you get charged? I say a $2 million line of credit with 8 properties. So I would try and negotiate, just see what the banker says. He's probably going to try and hit you for a point. I would try and negotiate a quarter point, see if you can get a quarter to a half on the origination fee, and see if you can negotiate something lower, like prime minus, right now, and see what happens. And like the more properties you have, the easier it is to negotiate. And the higher the loan is, if you do a $8 million loan, you've got a good origination fee there, and you're going to have a lot of assets that they now have that you can sweep the money into, really quick. So taking the debt in the line of credit and then paying the debt, sweeping all the money to it is going to be the entire strategy. Kendrick said, is there any impact to a credit score while the utilization is higher in the short term with a lot of properties out on the line? How do you balance that?
No, it hasn't impacted ours. So our lines of credits are on commercial lines and under our business names because we own those properties under entities, not under a personal name. I mean, we have really high credit scores, so no, it doesn't impact negatively at all.
Shit, my mid score. I just pulled my credit the other day. My mid score was like 790, and so I think the highest you can get
That's
might
a
be
great question, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but in
But if
fact,
you're buying property, you should, and that's a whole nother conversation, and I'm sure that'll be a future show, Pat, but you should absolutely be buying them under an LLC
yeah.
or some form of entity, not under your personal name.
So, and here's another thing: none of these properties show up on my personal credit.
Right.
I've been doing this for 25 years. I mean, I've got 15, 20 years of great tax returns, and so everything I do is business, commercial business, line of credit. None of this stuff's on my personal credit. Shit, I could do 10 Fannie Mae loans right now, probably full doc, and I could do 10 for my wife right now if I needed to. But I just do these commercial lines. It's way easier. And the banks treat me right. I've got great relations with these banks, and I've got a long history. The global cash flow is good, the way they underwrite stuff. And so, and then once you start getting all these properties, you got depreciation, you got cost seg, you got 1031 exchange, you got all kinds of stuff to not pay taxes. And so that's going to be our next episode. So this is a good segue to kind of end this show. We've been on for an hour and 20 minutes now. We talked about a lot of stuff. You're going to have a lot of questions. There's QR codes that we can throw up on the screen. You can hit any one of these QR codes. Oh yeah, episode 6, our next episode, we're going to talk about 1031 exchange. I'm going to show you exactly what I do here, the company that I use. I'm going to have them on as a guest for our next episode. And this is powerful for not paying taxes. And so after I've owned properties for 3-4 years, 6-7 years, 10 years, it's those properties that I'm selling. When I buy new property, I'm not really trying to flip those because you can't 1031 a flip. Now, what I can flip is the properties I bought 15, 20 years ago for 60 grand in Nashua, and I can sell those properties for 250, 285,000, and I 1031 all that money and never pay capital gains tax on that money. So we'll talk about that on the next episode. Let's go ahead and put the QR codes up so you guys can hit these QR codes. You can get in touch with us on any one of these QR codes. If you're interested in the mentorship, if you're interested in the business development marketing program for agent, it's not only real estate agents too on that program. You could be an insurance agent, you could be a financial advisor, you could be an influencer, anybody that has a big network that wants to get paid for marketing efforts on loans. That's a new thing that nobody's doing here in Kansas City. We're the first one bringing this out. So this is super new. Nobody's doing it. Jump on with us and take advantage of all these other services and all these other companies the KC Cash Closings, the mentorship program, the United Real Estate. If you just hit any one of those QR codes, you Google Pat Grace, go to my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube. You can ask questions there. We'll get it through there as well. I appreciate you guys listening. Marta, you got anything to tie this up?
Nope, just wanted to thank everyone for staying on with us and for watching and supporting.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys.
Yeah.